I'm really excited to welcome all of you to the EcoStruxure for Banking and Finance. How do we prepare our banks for 2020 and beyond? In fact, the session itself, this topic itself, is an integral part of our daily lives. It's about banks, it's about money. So really important, right? So if I ask you a question, how many of you are carrying a plastic credit card with you today? Right now in your wallets, hands up. Almost everyone. Wow. Now you must be thinking, such a lame question, right? A question around Apple Pay, or for that matter, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, AI would have been more relevant. But I'm sure that you would agree with me that the answer to my question would drastically change in just 2 years down the line. And that's the speed of change in banking industry. My name is Kusum Verma, and I have been working for Schneider for more than a decade now. And in past 5 years, as a part of my job role, I've been really privileged to work with the banking experts, and I could be a part of this phenomenal change in banking industry. Banking industry is changing. This is a very obvious statement. But what is really important for us to answer is, what is changing? What is going to be the impact of that change on you? And what are we doing, or what banks are doing to cope up with that change? So many disruptions and trends we see in market. We are not going to talk about all, but I will be highlighting 3 top trends right now. The first one, sustainability. Right? That's a key demand of all the shareholders, customers. In fact, as employees, don't we want to work for sustainable organizations? Yes. So this is a key driver for banking industry right now. Digital transformation. Banking industry is impacted the most due to digitization right now. And there would be no surprise if we start calling our banks as IT companies in near future. That's the speed of digitization, and that's the impact of digitization in banking industry. And then we have operational risk, which is a regulatory requirement for the banks and also a pragmatic need. Now, all these trends and disruptions are impacting the way the bank is reacting and behaving with their customers. So let's explore all this more in detail. And to do that, I have Hugh Lindsay with me. Hugh is our Global Solution Director. He's been recently awarded as our Edison Expert, which is our highest award for a solution architect. Congratulations, Hugh.
Thank you, Kusum.
Hugh has a very deep understanding on banking trends and the roadmap for the same. He is going to be the moderator of the session. So ladies and gentlemen, as I said, there are so many predictions about the future of banking, and what could be better than listening the reality from our banking experts. So I'm really honored to invite our panelists on stage. Our first panelist is Mr. Samson Jarima. Samson, welcome on the stage. Welcome. Samson is the Global Head of Engineering and Sustainability at Deutsche Bank, with extensive expertise in the design and operations of data centers. He's also known in industry as an expert in handling the challenges which are posed by balancing reliability with sustainability. We are really honored to have you with us, Samson. Thank you. Now I would like to call our second panelist on stage, Mr. Mustafa Tahiri. Mustafa, welcome.
Thank you.
Mustafa is the Head of Institutional Investors and Digital Transformation for Asia Pacific region in BNP Paribas. At BNP, Mustafa is focused on all the key drivers which are relevant to prepare his bank for 2020 and beyond. He is really focused on harnessing on all the new technologies for better customer experience and for which will help his business to transform. Pleasure to have you with us, Mustafa. Thank you. And now I would like to call our final panelist, Mr. Nicholas Stum. Nicholas is the COO for ASEAN and India for Society General. Nicholas brings over 20 years of experience to the panel in both banking as well as insurance. He has long-standing experience in managing, developing, and transforming entities with key focus on digitization. We are really delighted to have you with us. Thank you. Over to you, Hugh.
Thank you very much, Kusum, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you to our panel for joining us. As Kusum introduced, we really want to use this opportunity to speak to our friends here in the audience and tell them a little bit about how we see the future going forward. So what is it that is driving the bank now, particularly on the digital side, or as we talked about before, the areas of social responsibility, the areas of digital transformation, the areas of operational risk. What's happened in the recent past? What are the present priorities, and what are you doing to prepare for 2020 and beyond 2020? So Mostafa, I think we wanted to start with you because you are unique in the panelist in that you're wearing two hats. In the one hat, you're the head of institutional investments for the bank, and in the other, you're also driving some of the digital transformation for the region. So the question is, what are your customers asking you for? What are the real drivers from the customer side around digitization? What's changing?
Thank you. I think first it's the price to pay to stay in Singapore to have two hats now. Maybe to stay longer, I need to do three. I've been here almost 10 years now. BNP Paribas, I think it's a universal bank, so we cover three main client segments. So we have consumer banking, corporate banking, and institutional banking. So as such, the answer is always complex because these three types of clients have different needs. So I'm more in institutional banking part. Maybe that's my turf. I can tell you more. And I heard Kusum doing such a nice introduction about Alipay and Alibaba for consumer banking, for which I had a chance to spend one day with Ant Financial. I can tell you more how impressed I was coming back from this trip. But I think if you look at the bank in general, again, banking is a very traditional business. So it's based on trust. So the bank has been here for 200 years because the bank has been able to anticipate megatrend and adapt. Now, the challenge, if you want, in the transformation we have is to make sure we protect this trust, which our client is giving us, while keeping traction of what's happening in the world and anticipating. So what our clients are looking at, so my job is to support clients in one side, bringing the solutions beyond digital, and I've been asked as well to run our digital transformation. So what we see as main requirement from our clients is they are expecting us to be helping them into their digital journey. Because we are more in B2B business. So I think like you guys. So they are expecting us to bring value to their own transformation through our solutions. And they are expecting us as well to harness the information, the data, the technology, the skill set we have to bring more easy to use solutions for them. In summary, to give you a few examples. So for us, the way we run this today, so three main objectives. One is how can we work differently and faster, more agile, collectively attracting the right talents, which is becoming very challenging today. If people have a choice between Google and BNP Paribas, I don't have much a chance to win the battle. But I think we have in the other side a lot of experience, data, information we can use. The other part is how can we use this technology to bring better solution, what we do today for our clients. I take you through what we do in artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc. And the third element we work on is can we become something else than only doing banks? What do we have today as information, data, expertise, people to recreate a new business model and new business avenues for us? And that's the most exciting part. So that's the innovation part, and we have a lot of our teams very involved in defining, can we offer more services we would not see ourselves doing today? You mentioned sustainability, for example. We are very active now in building a marketplace between people with carbon, I would say credit, people not carbon credit, connecting corporate and institutionals. So we see more and more our job as a connector between the three segments I mentioned earlier, be it institutional looking for investment and corporate banking looking for financing, for example.
Okay, excellent. And are you experiencing any barriers, or what are the blocks within the organization that keep you from progressing faster? You mentioned agility.
Yeah, I think it's a transformation. It's a change management program. I think the technology is just a part of it. The question we have is the speed of this technology. So the mistake we all make is we make it purely hype in a way. So when we started, we did more labs, technical POCs, testing, a lot of good stuff, get people very excited. Now, you need to make money, you need to bring the solution to clients, and then you need to go through the traditional organization again.
Yeah.
The issue is if your innovation is carved out, the decision making within the organization is still traditional.
Yeah.
And then you need to surf again through the old style organization to get things done. And you need to get your leader to try to understand that they need to move the way they make decisions. They need to let go a bit. They need to test stuff. So all these nice words again about agility, fail and learn is something you would experience when you go live.
Yeah.
So the challenge and the lesson we learned is how can we go live quickly in production with clients. The secret, and I will stop there, is doing it with clients. So what we do more and more, we co-create with client solution. We don't do it alone. Because the power of client forcing you to do things is amazing within the organization itself. Because when you have a client committing investment, supporting the solution, you get a lot of traction within your own organization to get people signing off and getting the funding you need to invest.
Okay. So maybe we'll transition now to Samson. So Samson is the global head of sustainability for Deutsche Bank. Sorry, that's the second time I've done that. But you've got more of a focus on infrastructure. So experiencing digital change from the front office back, what kind of challenges does that represent for you?
I think the banking sector as a whole is going through a lot of transformation.
Yeah.
The key challenge for us is how to become quicker, more agile. Traditionally, infrastructure on our side is traditionally, 2 years is a short time span for us. Getting a data center up and running in 2 years is quick.
Yeah.
For these guys, they are expecting it done in 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's how do we, and in the banking industry for a long time, it's been very siloed. Discussions between engineering and infrastructure was always very high level. It was either at the very technical level, the guys, the nuts and bolts guys, or it was going to happen at the kind of management board -1 level.
Sure.
And therefore, that interface and that interaction wasn't there, which frustrated everybody. I was frustrated because I kept getting asked to deliver infrastructure that I had no chance of doing.
Yeah.
They were frustrated because they were now struggling to meet their client deadlines. So I think that's been a big challenge for us. And it's getting the banking organization to structurally and culturally change. There's a need to culturally change the organization and the way decisions are made and the way people collaborate.
Yeah. And so what kind of actions do you think you're taking to facilitate this or accelerate it? You both talked about agility, so.
I think, there's been a bit push, and in Deutsche there's been a lot of programs to get people to collaborate more.
Yeah.
Recently we launched they call it secret coffee, or mystery coffee, sorry. And effectively, you were randomly paired with someone from some other division to go and have a coffee.
Okay.
It forced you to go and meet someone that I would never have met. I got recently forced to go and meet someone from front office banking. I would never have picked up the phone and called a guy. And that guy would equally have not picked up the phone. And you go there and all of a sudden I've appreciated a lot more of his challenges.
Yeah.
And he's appreciating a lot of my challenges.
Yeah.
And I'm also understanding how I get to then understand how the infrastructure is actually impacting what the bank does from a front office point of view.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move to Nicholas. So, Nicholas, in our initial conversation a week or so ago, you had some really interesting perspectives on how these digital transformations are kind of impacted or affected by regulations in the industry, kind of what's going on in the ASEAN area in particular. So as a COO and your connections to the global industry, how are these environments preparing for and adapting to the change, and which areas are doing well and which ones are not doing as well?
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry, I switched to channel 2, so I heard everything in Bahasa or Tamil, I don't know. So I don't know what these guys said. Well, actually, maybe it's better. No, thanks. Though very much like Mustafa was saying here in the region, we're very much in the corporate investment banking, so we don't see the whole environment of a bank. Well, I share basically what has been said previously. The banking industry has been going through an extremely rapid change the past 10 years. But I must tell you that technology is not new in banking. Okay? In banking, we have two assets, people and techno. Technology has been happening in revolutions in banking industry for years and years and years. So this is not new. We can cope with that. But we have new challenge tomorrow indeed that we have to face, such as cyber threats. Actually, it's an amusement park for many hackers at the moment, because technology actually enables a lot of things, including cybercrime. So one of the challenges for the regions, to come back to your questions, I think are not only regulatory. They're linked to the variety actually of economies in the region. Several countries have several challenges. You can't, in some countries you have to consolidate the banking sectors, that's one. In other countries you have to invest on infrastructures, i.e. networks, highways. In other countries, a bit more, I would say, developed, then you can invest in fintechs, in innovation. So every country has its own problems, I would say, but that represents for you guys a big opportunity as well, because what we've seen in other continents, we're very present in Africa, for instance. And in Africa, they have leapfrogged technologies from e-banking, but they don't know what is e-banking, for instance. They went to m-banking. So these are great opportunities that will arise in certain countries in the region which are called as less developed.
Yes.
So one of the big challenge, I think, and I will conclude with that, is the alignment of Asian countries as well. Obviously, Hong Kong or Singapore is not close to China. You don't have that big market as Hong Kong has. China is focusing mainly on China, domestic. But I mean, if Asian economies can align their interests in several dimensions, regulatory, technology-wise, and acceptance actually to have common directions with growth in terms of tech and needs, that will be actually a big accelerator, because I don't know how many billions of people do you have in Asia. I'm not good in mathematics, but that makes a lot, I think.
Yeah. And are there good examples of geographies or markets that are doing quite well with these kind of transformations?
Well, I would state the obvious. I mean, Indonesia, actually.
Okay.
Indonesia is very good in B2C, and you have a lot of success stories.
Interesting.
You have success stories in India as well.
Yep.
Not to name China, but the markets actually with high potentials on the B2C are those.
Yeah. And when we talked last week, you mentioned Singapore in particular was needing to reinvent itself. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Well, in my view, that's the beauty of Singapore.
Okay.
Singapore Inc. is managed like a business. And every 10 odd years, they have to reinvent, to find new ways of growing, of reinventing themselves. Technology is very much in the flavor at the moment. We have a lot of news and we have a lot of discussions with MAS and government. We see that they're extremely proactive in making Singapore a hub for high tech,
Yeah.
especially in AI, data, analytics. Those are the main drivers. So yeah, it's a great place actually to be in.
Okay. Good. It's a very nice place for me today. Maybe back to Samson for a moment. So Samson, you touched a little bit on sustainability, but I wonder if you can think a little bit more into the future. So currently, most of the global banks that we deal with have hit some kind of carbon neutrality. Where's it going to go from now? Or what are the big areas of focus?
I think that's been an interesting journey for me. When I first joined the banking industry about 10, 12 years ago, sustainability and efficiency weren't even words that had a definition in the banking dictionary. It's now a lot more important. I think partly due to customer pressures, our customers are forcing it on the banks, which I from my point of view, it's really good. So that's been a bigger focus now. So Deutsche, for example, has made a commitment to be carbon neutral But there's carbon neutral and there's carbon neutral. I mean, the carbon neutrality that we've got is purely, is largely based on buying carbon offsets, which on its own is good, but it's not the best way. Having said that, we are now putting in a lot more effort in what we call direct carbon emissions, so measuring our carbon emissions before offsets. And as a bank, we've put targets of about 2% every year on that to meet part of the Paris Agreement, right, in science-based targets. So that's all good, and there's a bigger focus. Also, the front office has seen this, and they see this as both a revenue and a business opportunity in putting forward and sustainability-based funds and programs. So I think, as a whole, I think the banks have been, to a large extent, been in the forefront. Not as much as the tech firms, but I think they've been a very close second in adapting and appreciating that sustainable business practices are key.
Well, and both you and Mustafa mentioned agility. So thinking more from an infrastructure perspective, is digital helping with that kind of agility? If you digitize your infrastructure, does that get you further ahead?
Yes, I mean, digitalization on its own is. The challenges with it is the people.
Okay.
Understanding and getting the people to leverage the digitization and the advantages and the information that all this data is available to give them. I think that's been a big challenge for, I find it personally, and talking to my peers in similar roles, that's the big challenge, is getting the people to appreciate and utilize all this data that we have to drive efficiency gains and sustainability gains.
Okay. And maybe Mustafa, once again, so we've heard a lot about the buzzwords, right? So blockchain and cryptocurrency and AI and robotic process automation, machine learning. How many of these technologies are you actually implementing? Are they real, or are they just the buzzwords at this point?
They are real.
Okay.
And I think how to start that. Technology is a tool.
Yes.
So it's like any tool. Use it well or use it wrongly. You are serious about it, or you are making marketing with it. So why it's becoming buzzword? Because a lot of people talk about stuff, they don't do stuff. So, and I think the idea is, when you list all the lists already, it's not the same maturity. For example, robotics for us is now a norm. So you are not a responsible banker or manager if you are not looking at that space, because technology is mature, secure, efficient, give results, and remove a lot of bottlenecks in your workflow. And I think you have expertise and talents. Difficult to get talent like robo configurer, etc. But in general, it's working, and it's making a difference in lives of our staff and our clients.
Yeah.
AI, it's a bit depend what you do with it, because AI and machine learning, as it's I think spelled very clearly, you need the machine to learn. So to machine to learn, you need huge amount of data and use cases. So then, this is where the fintech is very interesting conversation between banks, fintech, or bank vs fintechs.
Yes.
Fintechs have challenged the way we do business in a way. The speed of getting a POC live is huge. But if you need data which is not available data public, it's becoming a challenge. Yeah. So the technology is out there. The data is in-house. So for us as banks, what we do more and more is collaboration in that space.
Okay.
So we either buy stakes, collaborate with people with the technology. We have the data and the expertise. We can run tested for years on historical data for 20 years, and you get very mature very quickly and scale up.
Yeah.
So example, when we do, for example, for portfolio investor, you were mentioning, so portfolio investor, even in sustainability today, they are all tracking sustainability index. And they need to invest in sustainable manner. Why? When you have a sovereign wealth fund of a country who is investing on something forbidden, it's a reputational risk for the country. When you have a pension fund, which is your pension, investing in something which is arms, etc., you don't want your pension money to go to this investment. So the public opinion is getting very tough on investors about what do you do with my money? This is country money, this is my pension money, this is my retirement money. So how can we track that? Is the data available? Yes. Were the data available before? Maybe. Unstructured, very complex.
Yeah.
Now technology allows you to have this data structured very quickly.
Yeah.
Even more, you can use non-financial data, satellites, telematics, I don't know, reputation, tweets. So you have a lot of other elements to get knowledge. So people are getting very tough, you don't know. You can say, I don't know, sorry. I don't know, I should not know. So the demand is very high.
Yeah.
Then technology is available. If you have the database, you can scale it up. Test the machine, get the machine to learn. Test on scale. We have 11 trillion of assets in our book. That's a lot of data.
Yes.
And we have 20 years of data of markets. So we can run through, train the machine, get results, which are giving value to our client directly, to us from a cost perspective, but direct value to client making the right decision, which they would never be able to make before. So that's two concrete examples.
Yeah. And so if you hand the mic to Nicholas, so again, this is another topic that we talked about. We talked about people, we talked about process, and technology was a third item. Within that, though, are politics and changes to kind of regulatory dynamics. And so how does that all fit together? Where's the most important lever right now to enable more digitization?
You mean between people?
Within people, process, technology, within the whole scope.
I would say people.
People, okay.
As Mustafa said, techno is just a tool. You need ideas, you need concepts, you need people actually who are daring to test new things. It's not easy in a very regulated world as we live. We bankers. It's extremely difficult actually to find what you can do, what you can't do, where you'll be slapped if you try something new. But we can't be, we cannot be prohibited in the mindset of our staff actually to test stuff. That's what we're doing very much. At least I'm a big believer of this. So techno is a tool. Mindset has to be on the innovation side because the chance that we have all to live in this time. As you can see from the photos, I'm quite old actually. I lived the .com era actually, and I've seen a big difference between that .com era and this era of technology. Now technology comes, especially when you talk to startups, they think about the business case before thinking about the techno itself. Two, the technos are open source, scalable, very much deployable immediately. It's the time to change actually. So that's what it's a great opportunity again. And now it's the people, young and old, like us, to make it change. It's also a good opportunity for you because I guess the openness of the innovation that will be increasing across countries. Just to cite a recent example, the MS, for instance, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, announced that they will make open source and they will give the ability for less developed countries in the region to test technos and to have regulatory sandbox, so it's kind of box that you can play with real data, to help other countries actually to work towards financial and technological inclusion. So you see, techno is there, mindset are there, so we have to act, that's it.
Is talent a barrier? Is it finding the right people, attracting them into the industry?
Yes, of course. Of course, we're not as sexy as a Google or Amazon. Sometimes we are less flexible.
Yeah.
So it's difficult actually to attract talents. But really, banking is a great place to work in techno, that's for
Anybody
sure.
looking for a job, come and talk to Nicholas. I'm not sure who wants to answer this, but you raised the cybersecurity topic, and I wonder if we can just kind of explore that a little bit. So from your perspective as a COO, you've got a certain impact from a cybersecurity perspective, but also from an infrastructure perspective, from the front office.
Well, if I can, I'll let you the mic, guys. Sorry, I don't want to. Cybersec is a real concern, obviously.
Yeah.
Why? Because not only techno is open, as I mentioned previously, and because actually cybercrime has evolved. Cybercrime has been global, is globalizing very much since the past decade. For instance, you have some con artists which were in Africa previously or in other parts of subcontinents that went now to Indonesia to actually play their parts. You have seen recently during the recent election what North Koreans are deemed capable to do. I don't have any proof, so I will use brackets. So cybercrime is really a very big concern.
Yeah.
As I don't know if it was just Mustafa was quoting, but reputation for banks is paramount.
Yes.
It's paramount, and it can be destroyed immediately. That's the only asset. One of the other assets we have, reputation. So we can't deal with that. We can't trade with that.
Yeah.
We invest a lot of millions of euros on cybercrime. We actually use a lot of cybercrime experts,
Okay.
which we call CERT, which is a kind of squad team actually, where I can detect and react to. We are making it very serious in organizations.
Okay.
And I guess that's the same for you guys.
Yeah. Mustafa, did you have some thoughts on cyber?
I'm not an expert, so I think
Okay.
I would just say my favorite quote from Spider-Man. So with great power came great responsibility. So
Very nice.
I think as we harness the power of technology, that comes with some challenges.
Yeah.
And again, trust is key. So I know the bank is doing everything it takes to make sure we protect what we have. And I'm not an expert technical, so I hand over to Samson, maybe more infra.
Okay.
But that from a business perspective is a key consideration for us as well.
Of course.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Cybersecurity is a major concern.
Yeah.
I think in the building industry, that's something that's not been looked at until very recently. So one of the challenges of working in the banking sector in the infrastructure world is how do you bridge that gap, right? I think currently the requirements that people are putting are probably over the top because they kind of didn't have any requirements. Now they're moving to the other extreme. There needs to be a happy medium. But there are still a lot of people who deny its existence.
Okay.
Within, within organizations, especially in the more traditional engineering and building services side, there are people that deny its existence or its impact. And I think that's something that education needs to be done. I mean, what you can do with interconnected systems are just incredible. I mean, I'll be very honest, when it first came a topic 3-4 years ago, I was, oh, come on, this is just another hype and it's another marketing tool to sell something to, And I went and sat down and, to your point, Nicholas worked with cybersecurity experts and had some real life demonstrations of what they could do very easily. And you'll be surprised what can be done if you're not. And, they were trying to do things that I didn't even think were possible at all. So, it is something that needs to be looked at and is being looked at quite seriously.
Excellent. Okay, so we're somewhat approaching the end of the, at least my questions. So now it's your opportunity to ask a couple of questions from our panel. I think somebody's out there with a microphone to come around. And okay, so we got somebody in the back. Who wants to ask a question of our esteemed panel? Right here.
Hi, everybody. I will be interesting to have your point of view regarding the fintech partnership acquisition. You are mentioning that you are comfortable with the tools, with the innovation, but regarding the acceleration, what is your point of view and the strategy regarding this area?
I start this way. So fintech is innovation for free. So what fintech is bringing to banks is a lot of new ideas. Fintechs would challenge the way we do banking in some aspects. So that's another part of the learning, to be honest. We learn a lot from fintech, the way they work. And third, fintech who doesn't make money is a problem because they are the innovation for free. So as a bank, what we look at is these three things. So one, it's a good innovation around. So we look a lot around, see who is doing what, new ideas. If we can do it by ourselves, that's great. If we can work with the fintech to do it, that's great. When we take participation, in general, there is a business model behind. That's the main driver, if I summarize. So the bank had just acquired, maybe in France, there is a company called Compte Nickel, so which is a bank with no banking. You open an account in a kind of shop, and then you have a card, which is prepaid card, and it's like a Visa card, and you go and pay. They have millions of users. They address another community of people who are not accessing banking. In our policy of being a responsible bank, more inclusive bank, that's tick the box. In the way we explore how we can do banking in a different way and get more people to enjoy having access to payment, it's another way. So for us, it was no-brainer to get a participation and buy that, and that's we'll explore for us stretching the way we've been doing banking. The rest of it, what I think fintechs brought to the business is what I call digital working spirit. So all the agile working, all the scrum mastering, all these nice buzzwords are reality because the way we've been building products, the way we've been doing stuff was pretty much product push. Was pretty much we build things, we do project, we go to client, we try to sell it. Now we are working differently, going to client first, getting client involved, building the screen first, the client experience part. And in some extent, like fund distribution or banking product distribution, it's huge. Robo-advisory was going there. It's huge because today, not everyone wants to be facing a banker to discuss. Not everyone wants to have a proper conversation with people who are knowledgeable or not. I want to go on my phone to make a decision quickly. And in the beginning, we were giving too much value to this human touch, which we will keep as bankers. But some of our new customers, they don't want this for a daily basis. They want this when it's becoming important. As a client told me, if I buy, I would say, an insurance for my car, I don't need to see you.
Yeah.
But if I'm invested in my life insurance, I would like to talk to you. So I think the way we've been working with clients has been an open, and fintech have been an open eyes for us. Now I think the name of the game is collaboration. I think there is a lot of win-win with a lot of fintechs for banks. What we don't like is the bank wasting time of fintech entrepreneurs as well. So a lot of hackathons and stuff, and nothing happen. And if you look to my fellow entrepreneurs, they are so fed up with people only doing marketing and not doing something serious. So we try modestly, I guess, the same, to try to do real stuff. So if we believe there is a real idea, we will invest money and time. If we don't, we just connect, try to understand. That's maybe sometimes open our mind and challenge as well the way we think and we do business today. I don't know, you want to add something, Samson? Or?
No, just to complement. I mean, I guess each bank had a different strategy. I said the obvious, but our strategy was very much stage one of a rocket was to meet as many startups as we could to change actually the culture. Some people are tech savvy, others are not. So that was the stage one of rocket. Then SG has decided to have an open innovation process, a real innovation process with schools, specialized schools, Station F and whatever, 42 in France and similar, think tanks, incubators, again, to meet and to get new ideas and potentially to have partnership approach with fintechs. On the same time, we have a fund dedicated to investments. So approaches are very much different, actually, how the bank can work with fintechs. I share Mustafa's view. It has to be serious stuff. We are exploring mid-term technologies and applications such as blockchain, but because we know it will take time to come actually to arrive live, but we don't want to lose our time. So, and that's one of the main challenges of fintechs. They don't know how to work with banks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, excellent. Any other questions from the audience? I thought I saw a hand back in that area. Oh.
Thank you. I'm thinking about bank branches and how we all have to go to bank branches these days. But if you had a crystal ball and you could look into the future, what's our bank branch going to look like?
none of us have. But
It's very interesting, right? I mean, I think the branch that we are used to of going there to draw money or deposit money is kind of pretty much dying. I mean, I haven't been to a branch. But bank branches, we've been in Germany, we've been doing a lot of concept branches. One branch was, kind of set up to be more like a coffee shop and collaboration space. But really, it's the branch that we have today is more about higher level services. To Mustafa's point, you don't want to see a bank teller to draw 500 euro or 100 euro. But, if you want to do a mortgage, you probably want to go and talk to somebody. And that's where I think the branches are doing. And fundamentally, it's a struggle for the retail banking because that was never what the branch was set up to do. And also the staffing that they have in these branches were never set up to deal with that. You have this bank teller who's great at checking your signature and giving you cash, or taking your money and putting it in the bank.
Right.
In the bank, but that's not what people want. So there's a lot of there's a need to both the physical asset needs to change, the structure needs to change, but more importantly, the training and the type of people that get put in behind these in these branches need to change.
I think we've got time for one more question. Don't be shy. Or not.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Late arrival.
I was wondering, because you're European banks based in Asia, right? But are you seeing the trend of you leading the digital charge versus European banks? Because I've heard from bankers in Europe before, and you sound to be a bit more advanced in your thinking and your agility. Is that the case?
I was smiling because it's a great question, and there is a lot of lobbying in that space. To be honest, if you are a global organization, you should leverage the global footprint. So, and our messaging internally is about that. So what we are trying to achieve is to be the center of excellence of something, as Asia, and this something is related to your ecosystem. If you want to reinvent payment, you don't do it in Paris, you do it in China. If you want to do data analytics, likely you do it from Singapore or another country, because there is an element of how can we harness the advance. US is I think you were mentioning MIS earlier, and the geographies are competing as well. So Singapore wants to be a hub for analytics, data analytics, and now it's the new stuff. Before that, it was artificial intelligence. US is based in more hosting fintechs. Paris want to be more collaborative. So if you are a global organization, you should leverage that, because our clients are asking us to give them the beauty of the global footprint, not what we can do in the country they are in. So the time to that is difficult, because that stretches the organization, as I said earlier, from the decision-making perspective. You need to decentralize more. First, you need to understand where the opportunities are, where the skill set is, and to put the decision and the power next to the client, who are likely push you further on forward-looking discussion than what you have. So the short answer is, this is the direction, but I think it's still a way to go, because again, the organization need to transform properly. But the good things for us after years now of explanation and sharing and communication is that acknowledgement is there. Now the execution is key, as usual in banking.
maybe precision on neobanks, which are not very much, except China, are not very much a favor. Again, because I believe part of the equation or the answer lies into the protectionism of certain banking actors in several countries, because they are employment behind. We were talking about new retail banking. Obviously, this is a concern because we have to find new jobs for staff in Europe. So I guess there is something which along these lines, but definitely we have the ability in Europe to innovate a lot, openly, organically, externally, whatever. We can purchase in certain cases neobanks. We can start neobanks with Boursorama in France, with SG in-house. There's a lot of models actually, but the playground given by the European regulators, authorities, is actually allowing us to do that. So maybe that's what is lacking in Asia still. Again, the political alignment.
Great answers. It seems we've run out of time. I was going to give us another few seconds for some final thoughts, but I think this was excellent. Thank you for your participation. Thank you much for your expertise.